Thank you.
Hi.
Hi. Would someone like to sit down with me?
Well, thank you.
Excellent. Lilia, Tam, Anima, Sarah, Lavoie, lovely human beings in a number of ways, fellow burners and conspirators in making the world bigger and brighter. Also, drumroll please, winners of the Launch Festival, which was last week?
Last week.
I cannot believe that was just last week. Last week in San Francisco. This is something that's headed up by Jason Calacanis, and there were 8,500 people there, and it was a massive startup competition, one of the, arguably, at least it's marketed as the biggest anywhere, and you won.
We did. We were really excited about it.
Okay, well, let's talk about it. You won with Connect. Let's talk about what Connect is and does.
Sure. Well, we are 2 of the 4 founding team members at Connect, and it's connect.com, spelled the normal way with a CONNECT. We won Launch and are here at South by because of it. Actually, we hadn't thought we were going to have a presence here until just really last Thursday, and ended up with a venue here. So celebrating right now in our last couple hours of our own event. Connect, what we're about really is helping you keep track of and deepen the relationships that you have across your lifetime, hopefully, ideally. And very specifically, what that means right now is that we help you pull all of your people from all of your various sources, Facebook, LinkedIn, various social media accounts, email, all these, pull it all in one place. So you have one place for your people. And then we help you visualize that on a map of the world. So there's a lot of stuff that we're interested in about location. How do you spend real time with those people in the real world?
Well, yeah, I remember at launch, just because I was covering it from the front row, and cheering you on also.
Thank you, Leah.
You're welcome. But one of the things that I liked that was said from stage by one of the judges who is a venture capitalist is that this is a one ring to rule them all kind of aggregator. You can do a lot of different things with Connect, just by knowing who your network is, where they are at any given time. Can you speak to a couple of those use cases?
Absolutely. One of the things that we're really proud of is trying to take all of the sort of cat videos and sushi pictures and things like that out of your social media feed, so that you're really getting the information that's the most important to you. So a lot of these different networks do have a layer of geocoded data that goes along with them, and so we're basically taking that data out and making it useful to you. So one of the things that we can do right now, if you download Connect at connect.com and check in Austin, Texas, a list of South by Southwest friends will actually show up in your Connect app. So anybody who has posted a photo anywhere in Austin, anybody who has posted an Instagram photo or a Facebook photo, all those people will show up, so you know who all of your friends are who are here in town. One of your sort of at-home uses that we talk about a lot is the ability to have people from out of town show up in your feed. So if you're living in San Francisco and a friend of yours from New York checks in somewhere around the area of San Francisco, you'll get a notification that says, hey, you've got a friend from out of town who's nearby. So we're trying to extract all of that really useful location data and keep it to your friends only. We've seen a lot of networks that try to show you a bunch of geolocated data about people that you don't really know. And so especially as women, you get a lot of messages from people you're not really sure who they are, what their intentions are. So we're trying to keep it to just the people who are the most important to you. And
something that I heard that I actually liked as a question at launch about Connect was, does it, it's not creepy and stalkery. It doesn't track you, right? No. It's only based on check-ins. Yeah.
It's only based on check-ins. You enable the location services only so that you can tell, like if you're in San Francisco, if someone from out of town is coming nearby you. But it won't take your location information and spread it to other people. It's all under your control. You don't have to share your information with anybody. We're working on a bunch of different settings right now that will enable you to share just with the people that you want to. Mm-hmm. And that's really one of the distinguishing factors of our app as compared to a lot of the other ones that have come out recently, is you have ultimate control over who gets to see your stuff.
Well, and what I find interesting about this, I mean, you're right, there are a million different apps coming out. A lot of people are trying to play in the same space, but from a meta perspective, what you're doing, it's about far more than technology or far more than just an app. It's about, well, how would you, I know how I describe what it's about. How would you describe what it's for?
I'll pass this off to Anima in a second. one of the things that we have found is that we spend so much time in front of our devices, so much time liking things, so much time looking at other people's feeds, and we really want to get back to person-to-person interaction. We wanted our online experience to mirror more what was happening in the real world and not be this sort of alternate persona, this other personality that you have to maintain. It's saying, okay, who are our friends in the real world? How do we give people a useful set of information about what's actually happening out there, so that then we can just use that as an extra sort of boost to our social life in the real world and not keep people glued to their screens all the time. So,
Right. Anything more? Sure. I mean, I think there's a real opportunity here, and it's reflected in how we built our team. It's really easy to start coding right away when you have a hypothesis on how to approach a problem. But oftentimes, when you recognize that the problem area is actually you get into it and you realize it's actually quite much larger than you thought it was. It gets a little bigger and bigger. And using the design principle of sort of make it bigger before you make it smaller again, we've approached this as a humans problem as well as a technical problem. And a lot of the stuff in this space is really to say, there are all these apps that help you do a certain set of tasks with a certain set of people. But really, at the end of the day, relationships are like the most important thing that we have, right? The most important currency we have probably is social currencies, right? These are the things that last. These are the things we've been evolved to value, right? And furthermore, our brains have evolved for many, many hundreds of thousands of years, longer than that, say some, that, really to be able to track relationships. So for us to think that we're suddenly going to code something, in a matter of months or years that hacks that, a little preposterous. But what we're trying to do and do some of the simple stuff that helps our brains and our hearts and our minds make the most out of what it is to be human with the people that really we spend time with in the real world.
Well, that was really wonderfully stated. I feel like you're based in San Francisco.
That's right.
And particularly, I was at this event last year called Yes and Yes, Yes. And there was somebody who talked about how, singularity is coming. We're going to have robot overlords. We may as well just program them with the values that we want them to have. Also, in San Francisco, there's a whole crew of people who are like, digital detox is the way, disconnect now. And it feels like, in some ways, Connect are walking straight down the middle of that. There is the human, ultra-human side, and there's the technology side. And I feel like you're doing a nice job of bridging those two things. And speaking of singularity, Lilia, you have a singularity background, right?
That's right. I was in the third class of Singularity University, the summer program for their graduate studies program. And then in the fourth summer, I was the teaching fellow there in the policy, law, and ethics track.
That's awesome.
If I could add something else on background here, just occurring to me, actually something that brought Lilia and myself together before Connect was the fact that we both had political organizing backgrounds. And so really looking to sort of what are the things that made us super aware of relationships. Get into any cause that you care about. Social change, folks, man, talk about needing to manage relationships, right? You are working at the intersection of technology often and business and all kinds of, policy, human science, whatever, tech. There's a lot of relationships you're managing in that space. And I was excited to get to work with Lilia on this project because we've been eyeing each other as friends and comrades in the political space, already knowing what it was to deal with spreadsheets and humans. So it's going to make it a lot easier.
All right. So let's do this. You've just won a huge startup competition, and there are lots of people, particularly wandering around here at South by, who are trying to do similar things. Like, I'm trying to get my startup off the ground, or I'm trying to win a competition, or I'm trying to get into an incubator or an accelerator. What few pieces of advice, based on what you've just been through, would you have for those people?
So I want to talk a little bit about the sort of dynamics of the East Coast and the West Coast. We've been talking about this a lot recently, and it's really interesting to me. A lot of this sort of East Coast mentality of building a startup has been, in my experience at least, sort of closed. There's a lot of, we're going to develop our IP, we're going to do this thing in a closed room, and then when we're ready, we're going to come out and talk about it. One of the things that has been really wonderful about developing out on the West Coast is that we've got this incredible community that is supportive of one another. So we talk about our ideas, we talk about them widely, we share them as much as possible. And we know about a number of different companies that are doing things sort of in the same vein as we're doing right now, and we're learning from each other all of the time. And the last speaker spoke to one piece about women in technology and in positions of leadership. And again, both of us were in the political world for about 5 or 6 years before we joined up with Connect. And one of the things that you also notice is that many more men than women run for office, and it's basically the same reason. A lot of women tend to think that they need to get more experience, they need to have more knowledge, they need to become real experts in their field before they go out and attack a problem. When really just putting one foot in front of the other, saying, I don't know the answer to this yet, but I'm really interested in the question. I'm really interested in trying to figure out who are some interesting people to work with so that we can explore this together. You don't have to be an expert, you just have to be really, really good at asking questions.
So your advice, Lilia, let me see if I've got this right. One is more like the Rilke quote, learn to love the questions themselves.
Yep.
And the second piece is operate according to, at worst, a co-opetition model, and at best, a cooperation model.
Absolutely. Cooperation is the best way to get your business off the ground.
Awesome. And I promise not to bring in anyone from the New York tech scene to rumble you over that East-West Coast beef thing. Okay, Anima, what would you add to that?
I love these two pieces of advice from Lilia, and she's part of the reason that I really value her place and her piece on the team, and I think that's maybe what I'd want to speak to. When building out a team, right, creating an environment where you are, it's a little bit like kindergarten, at least for our product team, in our better moments, right? It means that there's a lot of
So says the woman in a onesie.
Exactly. I mean, you have to have. Well, a friend of mine works at a University of Oxford. She studies the bonobo, right? And she has done at least one talk on TED talking about the relationship between creativity and trust, and how important it is to have trust, even primates, before creativity and play can emerge. And so one of the things that's really important for us to think outside of obvious answers is sort of didactically or reductively, is to make the problem bigger, make the question bigger, and that often means understanding that other people are asking different questions than you are. So what is it to sort of recognize that the people you're putting in your team are kind of like ingredients in a pot, right? And how do you put the right ingredients in the kindergarten playroom with your Post-it notes and Sharpies, I guess, is sort of, and how do you respect, frankly, sometimes the difference? How do you let heat arise between members of your team and have the kind of trust underneath it that frankly, when creativity is happening, when you're pushing up against things, you're engaging with that together. That's what, having that kind of trust, that kind of play, that kind of authenticity, that's something that, I advise companies to look for it and people to let themselves be more open, more real, more emotional than they might have thought that they were okay to be in this kind of setting.
So, yeah. Yes. I don't know, frankly, how to do some of the things that you just talked about. Like play and encouraging that, yes. But how to find the right mix of people? I'm not even sure exactly how that happens. Is that serendipity? Is it magic? Is it connecting with all of your networks? What is that?
I'll speak first to my relationship. It started with my relationship with my co-founder, Ryan Alice, who is phenomenal. And he's wildly different than me. And he would say the same about me. And I think that having that difference be not only okay, but really embraced. And what is it to have other people around your team know where those differences are? Don't hide that. We could go in a closet as co-founders and work, sort of try to keep things from the rest of our founding team but actually having that communication be open and more open allows you to see over time sort of how dynamics work in the pot. Another sort of point, other than embracing difference in this way, and allowing more communication to happen than you'd think was necessary. Like we have a lot more than agendas and memos, in our team. We go and play and try to let ambient communication happen whenever possible. I guess that's my first piece of advice on that. We call it the hive mind. It's honestly that we all come sort of like bees from different pods, different sort of pollinating spaces, but we have, we're coming together and we're building something, and we have different roles in the company, just like bees do, to do that. But there's something that's common about our structure.
And that's exactly what you're building. That's what Connect is. It's a massive hive for connecting with all of your bees. All of your people in the world. And I know your people happen to be on the rooftop at Fogo right now. So if anybody watching is here at South by, head on over to Fogo because there's good stuff happening and there's coffee and there's booze. And I will let you get back to your own party. Thank you for making time for this. I really appreciate it. Yeah.
Thanks so much, Leah.
Thanks, Leah.
Of course.